Welcome to Work With Me in New York City. I'm here with a very special guest today, Tyron Barrington, author, casting agent, and one of the top model agents. Hello.
How are you? Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for coming. I know you've been traveling a lot.
Yes.
So where have you been?
The year has been very busy for me. I've been in Paris, I've been London, New York, Miami, New York, Cuba. Just got back from Paris and did some work, and then now went to Miami, back to New York. I'm in New York this week.
So you're a world traveler.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your company.
Barrington Group, what we do is produce photo shoots, commercials, documentaries for many different clients around the world, including Avon, Lauren Cosmetics. We've done castings for clients like Target, Levi's, L'Oreal, you name it. We've done it. Heidi Klum's kids line. We've done everything. We've done just about everything.
So who are some of your notable people that you've worked with?
In terms of models?
Talent.
Models, I've been blessed to work with, let's see, Kimberly Simmons, Emma Hemming, who's Bruce Willis' wife, Tyson Beckford, Rashumba. Oh God, I'm going blank. But there's so many of them. It's really hard to even remember everybody, but there's so many of them, so many.
So what would you give, there's a lot of parents out here who their children aspire to be these people, so what kind of advice would you give to them?
One of the most important things I always say to parents is let the kids be kids. And I used to do a lot of castings for kids, and I've done, for New York Kids Fashion Week, done the castings for those guys there. And one thing I always say to parents, stay outside and let the kids come in, because then you see the true talent of the kid, because sometimes the kids try to be something else what they expect their parents want them to be. So it's always best to let, for the parents to stay out and let the kids go in and have the casting director or producer have that interaction with the kid, because then you see how much the kids have to bring and which client they're best for. So apart from that, I think personality is the key for kids. You could have a beautiful child, but if the personality, and if they don't want to do it, it's not going to work. But personality is the key for every child who's become very successful in the entertainment, fashion, whether fashion, music or whatever, is the key to get them to the next level.
So how do you handle some people who act with a diva personality?
Kids or adults? Kids you can deal with. Kids are a bit more fun. The only times you find kids act that way is because of what the parents instill in them or show them how they should behave. But generally, kids are much easier to work with. I know a lot of casting directors don't like, casting kids because they find the parents to be overbearing, or kids are fickle in terms of that one moment they're up and you could be on set and they just don't want to be in front of the camera, especially when they're quite young. So that can be a challenge for a lot of casting directors and producers, so they tend to shy away. For me, it's okay. Kids are kids, let them be.
So when you were a child, what led you to come to the United States?
I basically came here to pursue my dream of being an agent, of being a model agent. I thought I could be an agent, whether for models or actors or sports. Sports was one thing I've always been interested in, and so I thought, I could be a sports agent. So in school, I majored in managerial economics, and high school did managerial economics, and basic things like English and literature, history, English and literature. So I did all that, but I figured you can always combine English with management. You can't go wrong. And a bit of accounting, so you can't go wrong there. So then I did a semester of business law. So I tried to combine those things there, figuring, okay, only way I'm going to be able to become really good at what I hope to do is to at least have some basic knowledge of every area, whether it's contract negotiations or castings, meaning like when I came to America, I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology for 2 semesters doing public relations, PR, and advertising. So they have this winter in, summer in program at that time. So I did 2 semesters trying to understand and learn a bit more about public relations and advertising.
It's a very well-rounded entertainment background as
Try
well.
to. I try to.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the culture in Jamaica?
Well,
What drives people in Jamaica?
well, I left very young. I left as a teenager. So I know in Jamaica we're very passionate people. We're very go-getters. We understand the fact that even though we're a very small island, we know that there's greatness in all of us there. So we know that we want to excel and exceed others. So we look at the superpowers, like the United States, European countries and all those, and we think, should speak for myself, but I think that most Jamaicans think, okay, I'm going to try and outdo them. I'm going to try and excel far greater than they can. I'm going to prove that I can do better. And, you know, in high school, we had this, our motto was Solum Optima Petenda Sunt, which means only the best is good enough.
Say that one more time for the audience.
Slowly. Solum Optima Petenda Sunt. And it basically means only the best is good enough. So I always apply that in my life. And also an English teacher, she always said, don't ever use the word can't. And so I always remember that. Don't use the word can't, because she always says that puts you down and negates you from excelling higher. And those are 2 things that drive me here, apart from other things like faith, my trust in God. You know, those things push me forward to know that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I do those applications in my life, and thank God it's worked.
And you're talking about Christ, and the title of your book is The Lord is My Agent. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
And he only takes 10%.
And he only don't let me forget that. He only takes 10%.
And he only takes 10%. Yeah, it's my journey of faith in the fashion industry. I was a model agent. I worked in England. I worked in France. I did scouting in Germany because I lived in Germany. And I lived in New York. And, but I chronicle my journey from a little island called Jamaica, just a little dot on the map, and how God took me along those journey and guided me as my agent. He was my agent, my manager, my CFO, my COO, whatever. He was everything. And it comes from the 23rd Psalms. The Lord is my agent. The Lord is my shepherd. And I turned around and said, the Lord is my agent. I shall not want. He books me with the best models, best clients and all. So it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. And so I wrote about the goodness of God, of what he did, how he took me from a little island and put me amongst kings and queens, people, leaders, and all that, world leaders, and made me very successful in my industry and truly blessed my hands. And so I wanted to write something for my nieces and nephews so that they can understand that they too, and others, that if they trust Christ, they are able to have a great guide in life, if they trust him.
You have a beautiful way with words and in speaking and putting your point across. Are you a public speaker?
Sometimes.
Have you spoke anywhere that we know of?
Yeah, I've done so many different places for USA Today, at the John Jay College. I flew in from Paris once because they wanted me to speak to some former ex-convicts who were starting their business, and they wanted someone to talk and, encourage them, and that's great. I do for young people in the fashion who are interested in the fashion industry. And I have an organisation called MIFE, M-I-F-E, Ministry in Fashion Education. And so we do once a year a seminar, a talks event, where parents come and they're able to hear what it takes to get into the industry, into the fashion industry, but through inspirational talks. But we also bring the top kids model agents to attend. So then it gives the parents and the kids an opportunity to be selected for representation. So it's an easy little thing to help parents, because I get a lot of emails from parents. How do I get my child in the industry? So through that, it's an event. They come in, they're able to hear us speak, and the agents, they talk, and they're able to possibly get their kids represented by the top kids agencies in the world.
Do you have any success stories from the organization?
Oh yeah, I remember the first time we did it in New York, which was about 2 years ago, and at least I think about 7 or 10 kids got chosen by the top agencies. But I remember one kid, he was so adamant about coming. He had broke his leg, but he still wanted to come and hear us speak. And he showed up, and he had a little bit of patch. He had this afro, and he had this like a little blonde patch. I don't know if it's dyed or it was what, But he stood out. He was probably about 11 years old or 12 years old. And one of the agents took him. And even though he was on crutches there, they gave him a contract.
Wow.
And within 3 months, he was doing so many work, commercials, Toys R Us, and all these things he was doing. And he wrote on Facebook, he said, I want to thank you for allowing me to come. But he doesn't realize it. He made the step and came. He didn't allow having a broken foot to stop him from going further, because most people would have said, oh, you know what, I'll give up, I'm not going. But he didn't stop. He forced his parents to take him. And in the end, he became successful. Another time we had a young kid whose mom, they're Brazilians and they live in Boston. But what was really beautiful about this, we were at an event that I spoke at, and the mom said to me, nobody, all the agents at that event, not my event, but another event that I was speaking at, nobody took him. So I said to her, she said, Mr. Barrington, what can I do to help my son? And I told her some basic stuff, like they lived in Boston, and I said, outside of Boston, in a town called Framingham. And I said, do this, join your local drama club, school drama club, and sign up. I gave her a few tips. And last year, I saw them and they said to me, Mr. Barrington, we just want to thank you. We did everything you told us to do. We didn't go to New York or LA. There was a movie being cast in Framingham, in Boston. They had done the casting all over the US, and they were looking for this young kid to play this part of a best friend to this lead actress, and turned out he got the role. And the movie's coming out this year, but it was with Zoe Saldana. So here was a kid who listened and applied it. He could have gone home and just said, yeah, but he did. His mom told him, remember what Mr. Barrington said, and he listened. In the end, he got the role. Never been to Hollywood, but ended up shooting this movie, big part in the movie. So sometimes it's about listening and taking that step. But in life, most people want the blessing to come to them. They want to receive, but they don't want to take the step to go for it. Because what God teaches us is seek and ye shall find. That means go out. He says, then knock. That means you better bang down some doors. And then he said, open your big mouth and ask. But most people won't because of pride. But instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to go out and look. I did the same. I didn't sit in Jamaica wishing that I would become an agent. I got up and I found a way, got here. Well, I mean, got to England, got here, got England, got to Germany, washed dishes. I was a bus boy, did everything, worked for free. But I knew what was in my heart to become an agent. So it's about taking initiatives, applying it and doing it, not just wait for it to come. I know we're in this day and age with selfie, it's about me, myself. But if you can separate that and then do what you know God has put in your heart, trust me, you will succeed.
It's beautifully said. How do you feel about the new technology that's out there and how it's affecting the industry?
Technology is really good. I actually applaud it. I think technology is really good to a certain level. Yeah, I like it, but it's now allowed people to become self-absorbed. And that's the sad part about it. Whereas as an agent, we used to pick up the phone and call clients. Today, you just send an email. So there's no phone interaction anymore with the clients, which used to be fun because I would speak to clients on the phone and we'd hear their stories. We would talk to clients for years and never met them, but we knew how many kids they have. If they're going through a divorce, we pray with them on the phone, or we just say, you know, send a note. You knew their stories. Today, you don't know anybody's story. You just know, okay, so-and-so, we would like for that photo shoot, so-and-so, and that's it. It's become a bit cold, but it's good because it's allowed us to reach more people, more demographics, and achieve more.
So, are you working on a second book?
Yep, a few second books. I've been I thought I was going to release the second book, which is called Who Took Your Vogue? And it's illustrations. And you know, the character on this book is one of the characters in the book. And it's about following your dreams. It's about the world's 2 biggest supermodels. And in life, God gives us all dreams. And dreams are the cover of Vogue. And Vogue is a metaphor for dreams. And so we may change that title to protect ourselves from libel or anything like that. But the whole premise of it is to teach you that life is like a 400-meter hurdles. You run straight and then you have a hurdle. And you may hit that hurdle. That hurdle could be a loss of a family member. It could be a loss of a job. But then what do you do when you hit the hurdle? You don't stay down and feel sorry for yourself. You pick yourself up. You may cry a little bit, but you've got to pick yourself up and shake yourself off because God knows why he had you hit the hurdle, and you know why you hit the hurdle because it could be your fault. You know, I'm not saying about, meaning like, you know, sometimes God says, leave this job. And we hold on to it. And he said, no, leave and go to a place that I'll show you, like what he told Abram. But Abram was wise. He followed God's instincts. But sometimes we hit those hurdles because we don't follow it, because we become comfortable where we are. And so when you get hit with, okay, you lost your job, you get up and you start looking again. So you got over that hurdle, you find another job, and then it's smooth sailing again, and then you might lose a family member. You learn something from that you're able to later on share with somebody who's lost someone, to say, I understand, I've been there too, and I know what you're going through. You're in my prayers. You know, simple things like that, you know. But life is like that. It's a cycle. You're going to keep going around hitting hurdles, running straight, no problems, and then you hit another hurdle. But that's life. It's how you embrace it that makes a difference.
And that's kind of the tone you have.
Of the second book. But I was just now asked to re-release this book. And
are you making a movie?
I've been asked to do a series on it, because it's a tongue-in-cheek book. And but I've been asked to do a follow-up amendment to it about what it takes to be a top model agent.
And where can you purchase the book?
It's on Amazon, amazon.com. The Lord is my agent, and he only takes 10%. And the reason for the 10% is the laughter, is because in church, God says, give me back a tenth of what I've blessed you with. But he tests us to see, are we going to give back a tenth of what he blessed us with? So then we become selfish. We hold on to it. In a model agency, the agents, they take 20% from the models.
Sure.
So in our industry, the models have to pay 20% to the agency. But with God, he says, I only need 10% back. But he doesn't even need it. But he tests us to see whether or not we're going to give it. And a good example of this, I remember one day I was in church and I was praising God. It was one of the first days I've ever written a check for a large sum of money. Well, I was praying and I felt in my heart, my eyes were closed, and I felt in my heart, God said, write this check, this amount. And I felt in my head, whoa. And I was like, okay. So I got up after praying, I wrote the check and I said, hey, gotta do it. And I'm not kidding you, the next day, something happened, which is really interesting. About 2 months before, there was this model, she came in, and she was this older model, and she came in for a job I was doing for Target. And anyways, I was just thinking, should I have called that client's name? Anyways, it's okay. It's a good story. She did a job, she came in, and I remember fighting for her to get that job. Her agent was very lax to get her portfolio to the client, but I forced her, I called her directly, she sent it. Anyway, she got the job. She was supposed to get, I think, $2,500 a day for that job. And in the end, I spoke to the client and I said, you know what, she deserved to be paid more. She got $7,500 for the day. And unbeknownst to me, after the shoot, she called me. She said, I want to thank you for this, Mr. Barrington. I didn't know, I've never made this much money on a job before. She said, the most I've ever made was $1,500. So to make $7,500, and then she said to add on to it, they went overtime. So she ended up making about $10,000 for that day. So I'd forgotten all about that job. The next day after I gave my tithe, that afternoon, I was with a friend of mine from church. I was talking, and guess what? The lady showed up with some chocolates, flowers, and in the envelope, card, was a check for the exact amount of money that I'd wrote the day before for that church.
That's a beautiful story.
I think God tests us at times, just my opinion, but I think he does test us to see how faithful we are and how much we trust him.
That's very true, because a lot of people will sell their souls to be in the industry for 20%, but they won't
give back a tenth of that 20%.
Exactly.
Now today, the stories I hear is that most agents wait for the clients to call. I'm from the old school days where you pick up that phone and you hustle as hard as you can to make your model successful. And a lot of things that the models who became extremely successful were the ones who listen. Those were the ones who applied what you were telling them to do, and they were the ones who went further and above. That's why I think it's really hard to remember everybody, because now you see some of my former models doing philanthropic things around the world, organizations.
Great teacher.
No, I think it's just more people live from what they learn. And what are we, like, good example, Waris Dairy is a model I used to represent, and Waris is from Somalia. She was a model that was circumcised. And in 1996, when she told me that story, or 1997, when she told me a story of why she was having problems every month, she would disappear or drink or stuff there. She told me a story of being circumcised. Her family were nomads. For me, immediately was like, okay, making 6 figures as an agent was not important anymore. Her life was more important, but also knowing that there are young girls who are going through the circumcision every year, and a lot of them die because sometimes they use the razor, which is rusty or whatever.
Perfection.
Voila. So what do? You take the story to people that will help. So we took the story far and wide. She became a UN ambassador. She had a book. She became one of Glamour magazine's top 10 women of the year. She became, we got Congress to pass laws. House of Parliament in England to do the same, in France, in Germany, in Australia, in many African states. One person can make a difference in life. We're not here to take up space. it's not all about us, it's about what we can do for others. But we are in that selfie stage in life where it's about us instead of about our neighbours. We're having, at MIFA this year, we're talking about all different topics this year. And one of the topics is about plus size models. We're talking about kids models, of course, and regular size models. And we're having, you know, people from different avenues of the industry, makeup, hair, to speak at the event. Photographers will be speaking at the event. So we're trying to keep it a bit tight. We're supposed to do a luncheon event, a luncheon with the agents. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, but it was supposed to be a whole day event with a luncheon with the agents, but it may end up being a 2-day event for everyone to be able to come and hear, learn and be inspired, and the opportunity to probably gain access, quicker access, because you'll be having the top people there. So that's the beauty about our events. They're very small, but they're very informative, educational, inspiring. And generally people leave uplifted and people leave wanting to hear more and wanting to go and achieve their dreams and also attaining their dreams because the agents will be there to see them.
You give so much. What would you say the top 3 needs of your company and organization are?
It's always to give back. It's always the primary focus of our company and of who I am. I think one of the things I say is God gives us 2 hands, one to give and one to receive. The thing in life is that most people love to receive, but people don't like to give. But I think it's more blessed to give than to receive. And I think by giving and having faith and trust in God, your life will be simpler, easier, and less stressful, I think.
That's wonderfully said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is Erica Collins for Work With Me.